We're live.
I can
Fantastic.
see I can see the little green message.
Brilliant. Brilliant. We've already got one attendee in. Can't see the name, but hello, welcome. Not sure how many we have joining us live today. A lot of people joining the webinars and these workshops afterwards as well. Oh, here we go. We've got a whole bunch in now. G'day, Helen. G'day, Sharon. Janine. Lauren, Helen. Fantastic. Great to see you all here. And welcome, Aaron. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. I don't know if the people watching in that have seen the previous videos this week is noticing the difference in my camera already. After speaking to Aaron this week, I've gone and bought myself a new camera and I've got my angles slightly changed and a few other additions. So thank you for your help there, Aaron. Don't know
You're
if it's
looking at
making
$1
me look
million
more
bucks
beautiful.
already. Dan
Sorry.
who? I don't even recognize you.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So no, it's really excited to have you on board today. It's a really fun session. We've had some great, amazing presenters this week, and we've been learning so much about how to work with isolated clients and in this new climate. But I think this one is going to be quite different to a lot of the other presenters. I think still you'll see some themes coming through. Oh, someone's already put in looking sharper, Dan. Great, glad you noticed, Alan. Thank you.
Very good.
That's right. But no, I think this is going to be a fun workshop, but something that's actually, whilst we're going to talk about how to use camera, because we're now going to be working with so many of our clients on camera. We're going to be working through the lens where we already have to spend so much of our time and our skills in connecting with people, building up rapport and building up that connection. And now we're going to be doing this through a camera or through a lens so often. And that may not be even with our clients. It could be just in meetings with our managers or with fellow colleagues or even with our family. So I think it's great to have you on today, Aaron, to talk, get your expertise, get some knowledge about how this works and how we can better connect with people. And also, just like you've done with me already, make me look more beautiful.
That's right.
You've given me some great tips already. I love it.
I feel like
helped me. Sorry, go on.
I feel like I might need to change my catchphrase. Aaron, here to make you look beautiful. Like, I think that might be a little more we'll work on that. I'll speak to marketing and see what we can do. So, look, I mean, like you said, it's never been a better time to get yourself in front of the camera and become more confident on camera. It's never been a better time to learn about the tech, to connect with your audience and remove those barriers to make people still feel like they've got a really good level of connection in their lives. Because especially in times like these, you know as well as I do that isolation can lead to a huge variety of flow-on effects that are pretty negative.
That's right. And I should point out too, I want to give you a little quick run through your bio. So you've been a professional acrobat. You've got your master's in underwater basket weaving. I'll leave you to do your bio if that's all right. You
Right.
do.
Yeah, look, you said you weren't going to mention the acrobat and the basket weaving, but that's it's really embarrassing. I did have a couple of awards up on the shelves for those, but I've taken them down because there was just so many questions. So no, as far as my official bio goes, yeah, I actually used to work very similar to you, Dan, in recreation and aged care, which was a big part of my career. So it's, I guess, really handy to be able to have that experience and also have the experience of being on camera and being on TV shows. So I started out as a person on board a cruise ship in the activities department. And my official title, my official role was Junior Assistant Cruise Director, which meant I was the assistant to the assistant's assistant. So as far as pecking order goes, I was right up there. And from there, I had, long story short, an opportunity to be a part of a breakfast TV show, which really sparked my interest in being in front of the camera. However, at that stage, I was super nervous and quite shy. I know, crazy. And I knew I wanted to do it, and it was a fear I wanted to overcome, but it was huge. And it would result in literally physical things happening to my body. You know, people out there probably watching right now can attest to this, like, you know, the shakes, the sweats, just butterflies, feeling nervous, feeling uneasy. People, even sleepless nights before you know that you're going to have to do some form of public speaking or going on camera, going live in the future. So that was a huge hurdle I had to overcome. I ended up leaving cruise ships, coming back home, starting to film sort of my own content, and for a few, at the time, online companies, which on back then online, if you were doing TV presenting online, people were sort of like, oh, okay. So where are you a TV presenter? Online? Okay, cool. And now you say you do TV presenting online, people are like, oh my goodness, tell me more. So that was my break in. Captured a whole bunch of footage, put it together in like a little sizzle reel, show reel, and then ended up getting my first community TV show, which then things sort of snowballed, and I went fairly quickly after a few community TV shows onto free-to-air TV, commercial television, and then internationally, and came full circle, went back on as a cruise director on cruise ships, and then back online, which is where everybody's at right now. So there we have it.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I think that's a great wealth of knowledge, and with your experience and training, and I think you've got the great skill set to help us feel more confident on camera, and be able to do our job better, I think, because whether you're working with clients or even staff members, if you can present yourself the best way possible and you can connect with people better, you're going to get better results. So yeah, I'm keen to dive into finding out and getting more tips from you. So
yeah, look, absolutely. Because I mean, just to touch on that point that you've just said, it is so important these days. And when you think about it, I mean, a lot of the people watching right now, especially people working in aged care and rec and diversional therapists and people like that, they've already got really great levels of energy and enthusiasm, and their personalities are that of people who like to have fun. And so the real goal is removing that barrier between who you are as a person and how you show up in real everyday life, to being able to become that person and bring those attributes out on camera for your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. And what do you think, to start broadly, what are the key elements you think we need to focus on and be mindful of?
Oh, to start super broadly, okay, so the number one thing I would say is just a massive amount of repetition, but also watching back your footage. If you've never been on camera before, you can start doing really simple things. Like, I like to recommend to people starting to send video messages to your friends and family, people you're already comfortable with. So instead of doing a regular phone call, start doing video chats. There's a really cool app that you can actually get as well called Marco Polo, which, Dan, I think you and I did try the Marco Polo app. Do you remember the Marco Polo app?
I think so. It rings a bell, yeah.
Marco Polo is pretty cool because it's kind of like a little walkie-talkie app. You can get push messages on it, and you can have a video conversation back and forth between you and another person or a group, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. Great way to practice, great way to just really get used to seeing yourself on camera. Now, the cool thing about Marco Polo and video in general is that there's this really interesting phenomenon that happens in your brain when you watch your footage back. Because everybody, when they start, or most people, when they start, have these little idiosyncrasies and nervous tics. And it could be like, for myself, I don't know if you had one, but for myself, when I started on camera, I would do this. When I was talking, I'd shrug my shoulders, almost like, I don't know what I'm talking about. Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't know what I'm talking about, right? So that was a weird nervous tic. Some people raise their eyebrows when they're talking. Some people just can't stop using their hands. Not that we want to mention these.
I'm going to be honest, Aaron. I wasn't sure whether to mention this at the beginning, but I was going to start. But now you're talking about tics. I'm going to say it. I've been doing more and more videos live and recorded over the past few weeks than I have in the past, and I've for the first time started watching back thanks to your advice. And I'm watching these videos back, and these tics. I'm going to mention two of them, which I don't know if I haven't eradicated them yet. So I don't know if telling the audience these tics, they're going to spend the rest of the week watching for them. But I do a funny little, quite a lot, surprisingly, obviously in all my conversations. So I'm eradicating that from my personal life, not just on video. And when I'm standing, I sway constantly back and forward. So yeah, you're right. Watching for that and
So swaying, and what was the other one?
making a little sound.
Oh, so okay, like that, right?
Yeah, instead of
You,
I'm almost
you know, it's interesting because a lot of the nervous tics, um, our brains are moving 100 miles an hour because we're using what's called the inner editor. All right. And the inner editor is like a filter, right? And so we put this extra layer of filtering on what we say when we're on camera because we're so nervous we're going to make a mistake and say the wrong thing and end up looking silly, right? Our ego actually jumps in a big, big way, right? So I call this the inner editor. You can name it. You can give it a person's name. You can call it Ralph if you want, right? And just be like, there's Ralph again, right? You see? Okay, so and what happens is when you put the inner editor in place, it's a technique for almost delaying and slowing things down because your brain's moving so fast. It's moving at lightning and you're trying to think ahead, think ahead, think ahead. Look at all the barriers. Look at all the potential obstacles that you have. So people put things in like that, like a little delay or an or an or so so they can delay. But one of the coolest and best things you can do, and I love Barack Obama does this, right? He does it so good. We won't mention the other guy right now. Actually, we kind of got to mention the other guy because he does a really annoying thing. But the thing that Barack Obama does is he does really powerful pauses, right? And what happens when you pause is that people really lean in and they really start to pay attention, like, oh, what's he going to say next? Right? So he uses his cadence, so his speed of how fast and how slow he does things. And it's a technique. And whether he's adopted this, I mean, I'm sure he's done a lot of speaking training and things like that, but whether he's adopted it over time from the amount of stuff that he's done as far as speaking and being on camera goes, or whether it's a specific type of training he's done, the pause and the speed up, slow down cadence and the inflections, which are the high points and the low points when you land stuff down, that can really put a lot of light and shade into the message you're delivering and give it a lot more impact. So there you go. That's a couple of hot tips for you there.
Yeah,
I was saying that the thing that annoys me about the other guy is that his body language. Oh, his body language terrible. So I call it big fish, little fish. So every time he's talking, if you want to go and have a look, I mean, he's everywhere. You can't get away from the guy at the moment. But he's constantly doing this. So I call that the big fish, little fish, right? It's a nervous tick, right? And it's just something that, oops, I've just hit my microphone. It's something that he just constantly does. So like I said, they're delays. They're things that allow you to insert an inner editor in front of what you say in a smoke screen almost, so that you can catch up and have time to overanalyze stuff before you say it, which is really destructive. And yeah, we use a lot of techniques in the training that I do with my students to sort of remove or just tone down the inner editor from a 10 down to like a 2, just so that you don't accidentally slip up and say something really bad, but also learning how to own those mistakes if you make them, because going live these days, you get one shot. So you need to know how to handle slip ups and accidental things and be okay with making mistakes and laughing at yourself.
Fantastic. And I wanted to point out, we're going to address this later on, but I wanted to sort of frame it for people as well, that this really works for both ourselves, but also our clients, because a lot of our clients we're working with might now need to be on camera. And it's important for us to be mindful of what barriers they might be facing and how we can also pass this on to our clients to help them feel more comfortable, you know, if they're nervous about being on camera. So we'll come back to that. So what are some ways we can remove these barriers in between? You've talked about inflection, you've talked about pausing and the confidence, I guess. Are there other barriers that you...
Absolutely. Getting back to what you were saying about removing barriers for clients specifically, clients who have, especially if you're talking in aged care, who have never been on camera before, never done a video call before. I mean, they grew up with rotary phones, which we're showing our age now, but we did too. If we're going to be honest. So the coolest thing you could do there is you can call somebody on video and they can have their camera off. So they can watch you on video. They can feel like nobody's watching me. Don't have to be self-conscious. So I can watch you. I can talk back. You can hear me, but I don't have to be on camera. Generally, 1 or 2 phone calls like that, and they'll be like, "This is fun," and they'll want to turn the camera on. So that's a cool little technique. Everything in baby steps, I would say. Progressive baby steps,
yeah. Yeah, it's not a fact they're not wanting to turn on their camera, just, baby steps, or it's a solution. Maybe they may never turn it on, or it's a step forward to get in there and building up that confidence. I really like that. I think it's a really strong point to reflect on.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You've talked about, sorry, go on.
I was going to say there's sort of, what would you call it? The weird phenomenon that I was starting to speak about before, where you have all of your nervous tics, and simply by watching back your footage and reviewing your footage, it takes something that is an unconscious trait, be it a nervous tic or maybe how you're speaking with your cadence. Maybe you're speaking way too fast because you're really nervous and you're trying to get everything out at once so that you can hit stop and not record anymore, right?
That's me.
You might be doing that, okay? So by just merely watching back your footage, it takes the unconscious or the subconscious and it brings it into your conscious mind just by watching it. And naturally, all of these things that you don't necessarily like about your performance, you don't even need to know what they are. They will sink back into your subconscious and naturally be eradicated from your performance. I think that's a really cool one, just by watching back the footage that you record. So that's probably one of the most valuable things that you can do, especially early on.
Fantastic. The other question I was wanting to know is, you've spoken about energy levels through the camera, and how the energy levels change, and then even some studies that have been done on this. Can you elaborate and talk a bit about that? Because I think it's really important for being aware of now that we're communicating through this medium.
Absolutely. So everybody comes up with different statistics on this. I usually say it's about 20%. 20% of the energy that you have, like in your voice and how you speak and how you show up on camera, is lost through the camera lens. Very interesting thing that happens. So what you've got to do naturally, and what I teach, is that you've got to raise your energy up. So if I was speaking to you now, how I would usually speak if we were to meet up and just chat while we were sitting having a coffee, my energy would be somewhere down around about here. I'd be like, so yeah, how are things and what's been going on and what have you been up to lately? Okay, cool. Yep. So how's the weather? I'm not that boring when we catch up in person, but my energy level would be sort of down around about here. And that's how I talk in real life, in everyday life. And that's how everybody does. But to everybody sitting at home right now, watching, I seem a little lethargic. I seem tired. I seem slow, and I seem almost disinterested and unengaged. So that's the energy that you've lost through the camera. I'm not sounding like that to me here right now, but to you guys, I am. So if you dial it back up, you've got to really sort of double down on what your energy is. So what you've got to do is sometimes you can raise the pace, raise the volume a little bit, but raise your energy. And I've even had people doing star jumps off the camera. So it's going from here to, and even your body language changes. People sit up straighter and you do that sort of thing. So you have the highs and the lows in your inflection. You dial up the volume a little bit. You can pick up the pace a little bit, and you can be more animated and more energetic. And you'll actually feel stupid the first time you do this. You'll think, oh my goodness, I'm going to look like a cartoon character on the other side of that camera. But that's not how it works. You watch your footage back and then you say, oh my goodness, that actually looks normal. I was talking like a nutcase when I was filming that. It's so strange. It's so unusual. I can't understand how that happens. So
I'll test,
for
and
those watching,
I'll be a testament to that. You've done this exercise with me,
yeah,
and you didn't show me the camera footage, and you got me to talk on camera, and I did it, and I thought I'm gonna act my happy self, and I'll almost disprove. I don't really believe it, and it's not
yeah,
until I did it, and then you said now overly happy, and I felt a little bit silly, and I watched myself back on camera, and it looked like I was just my happy self. It was
yep.
it's worth doing, and an exercise that's very interesting and quite telling. So sorry, go on.
It's almost like you're going to be a play school presenter. Hey, boys and girls,
Yes.
how are we today? Right? It's
Yeah.
sort of like that. And it's a lot easier to go higher than what you think you need. It's a lot easier
Yes.
to go up there and then just pull it back 5 or 10% if you need to. My bet is, though, that you won't need to pull it back, because normally people really struggle to reach the max capacity of what they can do. It's a lot harder, on the other hand, to go from here, raising at 5%, 5%, 5%, 5%. It's near impossible, and you'll feel like you hit a ceiling about here.
Mm, yep. Really, really good point.
I
Uh,
remember doing that training with you, by the way, and that was the look of like just sheer amazement on your face when you watched it back. You
yeah.
were like, "Oh my goodness! Like,
I
why?
couldn't
How does
believe
that
it.
happen?" I'm like, "I can't explain it."
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And I'm still learning. I'm still trying to get my head around this and make it a natural part. And I think this is something to be aware of, that all these things are tips and tools for help us to present the way we want to present, because we want to act and connect with our clients in a certain way. We want them to connect with others in a certain way. And this is really just about little tips and tools to keep practicing, to get better. And I think that's a really big one. So yeah,
Mm.
hopefully people will see me being engaging, and a lot of that's thanks to you. But the other question I had was, you mentioned briefly, and you did talk about people being nervous. Is there other ways to counteract that before, if they are feeling nervous? Is there like a
Absolutely.
simple strategy?
There's a simple there's a number of simple strategies. There's a visualization one that I love to do as well, which might be a little over the top for people who are wanting to use video for the purpose of connecting with clients and things like that. But I can run through it really quickly, and
Yeah.
that is, think of three things that three big accomplishments. They don't have to be things in front of the camera on stage or anything like that, but three big accomplishments that you've had or that you've achieved throughout your life. Really big things where you felt, oh my goodness, that's amazing. And maybe they're things where you didn't even really believe 100% in yourself that you could do it.
Yeah.
And then you're going to close your eyes, and the first one, you're going to picture a big circle, and it'll be like a portal, like a window in front of you on the ground, in the shape of a big hoop, in about the size of a big hoop. And there's going to be a window, and you're going to see like a video playing in that circle. So you could even do this right now while I'm telling you this on camera. You can close your eyes. We can't see you right now. You're not going to look silly. All right. So close your eyes. Picture a hoop-sized portal in front of you on the ground, and it's like a movie reel playing through there of the scenario that played out when I'm going to go into my meditative voice right now. It's the scenario that played out when you had that experience, when you achieved something amazing, when you did something that you previously didn't think was possible. You doubted yourself. You weren't sure if you could achieve that. Picture that image right now. Picture that video playing back to you. Think about how you felt. Think about the sounds that were in the room or in the area that you were in at that time. What did it smell like? What could you see? What could you hear? How did it feel inside when you finally realized that you'd made that accomplishment? And then step forward into that circle. And what I would do is I'd physically get people to step forward into that circle right now. They'd be standing up while they're doing this. And then look into the next window on the ground. What's the image? What's the video playing back for you right now? What do you see? What do you hear? Go through the senses. What do you feel? What do you feel inside? What are the people doing? What are you feeling? How are you responding to their actions towards you? And take a step inside. And now dial that up even stronger. Dial that up from a 7 or an 8 where you were to a 15, to a 20. Dial that intensity of that feeling up, and then look into the last hoop, the last circle, the last window, and think about what that is. How does it feel? How does it sound? How does it taste? How does it smell? What are you seeing? What are you feeling? Dial it up. Stronger, stronger, stronger. And then take another step forward. Keep your eyes closed and repeat 3 times in a row your full name, first name and second name, surname, all 3 if you want, back to yourself. If I'm saying it to myself, I'm saying Aaron McCarthy, Aaron McCarthy, Aaron McCarthy, out loud. And you can actually repeat your name before you step into the next hoop each time, which I usually recommend, even more powerful. And then at the end, open your eyes. How do you feel? Now, get in front of the camera or go up on stage or do that thing that you've been nervous about doing, and your entire mindset and the psychology behind how you feel has shifted and changed because you have now drawn upon and visualized 3 times in your life where you overcame those feelings. Really, really powerful exercise. So yeah, that's a really good one that I like to do. So,
it's a fantastic, and it is
and
a powerful
you're
exercise.
awake.
And I've heard you talk about stories where it works. It works incredibly well. And if you are nervous on camera, I dare you to try this. You know, if you think, oh, it's just a priming exercise, you know, priming works. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And I think if it works incredibly well, there's lots of science to back up why it works so well. But I think if you are nervous, you know, try this exercise. It will work, and you'll be very different moving forward on stage in front of camera.
And on a lower scale, if you don't have time to do a big priming exercise like that, there's other things that you can do just to get yourself into the headspace and meet your audience at where they're at. Okay, so, and that's just a simple thought that you've got to have in your head that just take a half a second to center yourself, right? And to say, who am I communicating with right now? Who am I connecting with on camera? And what is their desired outcome? And most of the time, you're going to say, I'm connecting with this person and they want to have fun and be happy and enjoy this video, this chat. So meet your audience where they're at. If they want to have fun and they want to have a good time, dial yourself up and go in there with the intention, I'm going to have fun and I'm going to have a good time. A lot of the time, you're not speaking to a live audience unless you're doing a Facebook Live or you're on stage. A lot of the time, it's to a camera, and so you can't see people's responses and reactions, and that makes us feel a little bit insecure. So we've got to just imagine that the people on the other side of that camera, or the person, because it's much more powerful when you speak to just one person, everybody feels like the message is just for them, and it's a little less confronting for you. Imagine that person is on the other side of that camera and they're smiling and they're having a good time and they're laughing at what you're saying. If you're throwing in some jokes or some funny things or some funny things are happening or you're stumbling over your words, they're not looking at you and going, right? They're smiling, they're having a giggle and they're like, this guy's great. You know, this girl's great.
Yeah,
I'm really enjoying this. Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, just a little 2 points. One is we got a message from Lauren just before saying this is infectious. So obviously what you're doing is working. It's saying Aaron's wonderful, so many great points. So that I think it's a good time to throw that in there. But also wanted to mention you're talking about matching, and that's what Stefania in yesterday's presentation around communication was talking about is matching people where they are, and then where are they wanting to be? Where do we want to take them? Because all that comes into play. If you're consoling someone, obviously your energy levels will match differently, but to be very mindful that can look different through the camera and how we need to change it from what we normally would if it wasn't in front of a camera. So so that's great. And I'm wanting to. We've got so
one
many
extra
questions.
thing.
Oh, sorry, go on, Aaron.
Sorry, one extra thing before we finish that little section off there is before you jump on camera, before you even hit record, hit go on your live or anything like that, is a lot of the time you see when people first start out, they sort of hit record and they're doing stuff and things are happening, and then they're sort of like, hi, right? and it's sort of like, you can see them switch on, right? Which there's a big thing about watching people on camera where as soon as people are almost like, it's easier to notice when somebody's inauthentic, right? And you're not being inauthentic just by organizing stuff and going, hi, like that. But if you start rolling, if you hit record or you hit go on your live and you're already in the moment, so much more powerful because you haven't broken that third wall, right? So the third wall is like, doing stuff around the house, Aaron, or getting ready for recording my video or going live, Aaron, and I'm on, Aaron. And when people see that moment, it almost comes across as inauthentic and you lose trust, connection, and they lose faith in you a little bit. And if you want to do something like show up authentically, obviously everybody does, but if you want to do something like create a sales video or a marketing video or something like that, then that's a really huge barrier that you're throwing up there for yourself. So the best thing that you can do, and Lauren reminded me, thank you, Lauren, when she said, this is infectious, a smile. A smile is infectious, a laugh is infectious, a yawn is, don't do yawns. But put your smile on before you hit record or you hit go live. So in the few seconds lead up, we're thinking about where's our person at? Where are we going to meet them, or where do they want to be? All right, they want to have fun. Yeah, so we got to raise our energy up. We got to have fun. Do a couple star jumps, do a couple push-ups if you want, jump on the spot. And if you really need to do that, you can physically do things to your body to change your entire chemical state. And then the very last thing before you do, and it will become a habit, is put your smile on. So if I'm about to hit record or go live right now, I'm going to do this. And then I go live. And so when people see me first up, I'm going to be like that already. And so people are like, oh, he's in a good mood. He's happy. We're here to have a good time. This is great. Rather than seeing like that, like the surprise, okay, oh my God, I'm on, right? So straight away they're like,
and
oh,
like
he's not
the ramping you were saying, it's hard to ramp up too, to go from here to hi everyone, as opposed to I'm happy, hi everyone. It's Yep. Really, really cool tip. So even that one little thing just can have a profound effect on your videos, and I suppose
can
like
carry
when
right
you
through.
see someone for the first time, you go into a cafe or you see a client and you make eye contact. Oh, hi. The instant you make eye contact, you're there. Whereas when it's in the camera, you're now looking at me. I'm kind of, I'm looking at you, and it's a delay in excitement. There's a big disconnect there.
Yeah, absolutely. So really super important tip, and it flows right through in your video. And if you notice throughout your video or throughout live streaming or video chatting with somebody that it's dropped off, then you just throw it back out there. Just be like, shift,
Yeah.
And be sure to connect through the lens is really important as well. Like I'm looking at you here, but you're on my screen down here. And so occasionally you'll see Dan and everybody watching, they'll see my eyes cast down. That's me checking my framing, right? That's me making sure that I'm not like sitting here and my eyes aren't cut off or something like that. So, but connecting through the lens is like looking someone in the eye.
You are a master at this, Aaron. I have, if people are now watching old videos from this summit throughout this week, they'll watch just how often I'm talking like this when I should be talking like this. And it's a huge difference. And I watch you, and I know that your computer screen is way down low, but your eye contact
You've seen my setup.
Yeah, it's incredible, but it is an art form, I think, to practice talking into the lens, but a very powerful one too. I'm not sure if people are noticing the difference with me now that I'm finally talking into the lens, but it is a big difference. So it's a great point as well.
Yeah, and I guess a good flow on from that, and I have a feeling that you were going to ask this because you did mention this before we started chatting, and I hope it's all right to bring this up now.
Please.
But connecting with people at eye level as well as connecting with people with your eyes. So, and what I mean by that is, for example, if you've got somebody sitting down in a chair and you've just walked into a room and maybe they're an elderly person and they can't stand up, well, you wouldn't necessarily stand. I'm just going to do this, and my microphone will probably sound a bit distant right now, but you wouldn't necessarily stand over them looking down at them. Like if I'm doing that to you, you wouldn't stand over them looking down at them like that, because it might seem a little bit domineering, you know, like sort of thing, a little bit overbearing. And so what you'd usually do is you'd sort of get down and you'd connect with somebody at eye level here, which is a lot more, you create trust and connection, and it's friendlier, first of all. So when you're looking down at somebody, it has the opposite effect. The same goes for if you're looking up at somebody, you're almost saying that you're timid and shy, and you know, it comes across as a self-worth issue. So just a couple of
it's
tips.
A huge one, and this is the first time, Aaron, we got on and he said, put your laptop under a box. So I'm actually sitting on a box. It's sitting on a box. I'm going to work out a better system than a box, but it's the first time my camera is at eye level. Now, I originally thought, oh, that just looks a bit better, and it did look better. It was much lower before when I was looking down, and I've had other times when I was looking up, but the down, it wasn't quite right. But it's more than that. It's that connection that we're trying to do, and you did right. It's much more than just looks we're talking here. But the camera level is huge.
Yeah, and look, there's 3 things that you really want to achieve in a video between you and the person who's watching you. And that is that you want them to know, like, and trust you. And the way to create that good vulnerability from your side and that authenticity and that connection is to look somebody in the eye and really connect right there. And, you know, you even met somebody who's sort of, their eyes are darting around the room. They look disinterested or maybe even rude. So, but you connect with somebody through the eyes. That's you looking directly down the barrel of the camera in this case, and getting your webcam, your laptop computer, the eye line of the camera. You want to be able to draw a direct line of sight between your eyes and the camera lens there.
And I'll just to keep hitting this point, we're talking about people and some of our clients who are already vulnerable and at risk of isolation, now even more so. Potential, you know, people in the community or people even in facilities. They're already isolated and they're lacking that human connection. And then we finally get them onto a Skype or some sort of chat like this. And suddenly they're not even getting eye contact. They're getting it like this. And they're, you know, we're talking to them as opposed to engaging and talking, and how are you today? It's a vast difference, and it's so important right now. So it's an important tip, not just a useful one.
Some people use things like little fluorescent stickers next to their camera just to remind them, you know, like, and they write smile on it or look or something like that. And I know it sounds silly, but it's just that, it's that constant thing. Every time you see it, you go, oh, got to connect here. Like, oh, yep, I'm back again.
It's counterintuitive. We're talking about making eye contact and I'm looking at you now, but in this instance, we've got to retrain our brain to make eye contact by looking away from your face. So it's a new skill, absolutely. And a yellow dot's a great idea.
And I had to be strong then, because I saw a message from Janine come through and I was sort of like, what's that? What's that?
Another compliment? Yeah.
We're talking, is that another compliment? Is it my hair? Is my hair good? So you got to fight not looking away sometimes.
That's right. I'm just going to quickly read out while before I ask the next question. She said, a great tip. I saw this in recreation programming as I watched a staff member run a program. We really do engage with the audience when we're at the same level. Now I use a wheelie chair to be at the same level as the seniors when I run a program. Same thing when making a movie or video with them. Absolutely. Great point, Janine. And Aaron, also, so that's the camera at eye level. You've talked about framing and headspace as well. This is more, so yeah, can you explain that?
Yes, and also, if you remind me later, I've got a really hot tip for Janine, just flowing on from what she said as well about the specific purpose-built things now that you can get an iPad or a phone at eye level for people who are in wheelchairs and sitting at a lower thing as well. So we can get back to that. But as far as framing and headspace goes, so right now, if we're looking at this, I'm in landscape mode. You're in landscape mode, Dan. And landscape is, when you look back at when we first started using computers and you would hit print and it went into page setup, and we're like, would you like landscape or portrait? That's the options that you had. And landscape was that the page was on its side, which is what we've got here right now. And portrait was that it was sort of more vertical and you had a longer bit of real estate going down this way. Same goes for being on camera. You're in landscape or you're in portrait. It can get a little confusing these days, and people don't necessarily know when to go landscape and portrait, because so many different social media platforms out there these days are like, well, this one's in portrait, this one's in landscape. Right now, if you look at hot property on things like Instagram or TikTok, then you've got, well, that's portrait mode, right? Even their long form content on Instagram, IGTV, is portrait mode. So you can't just film everything in landscape and expect for it to look good if you want to share it out across multiple channels these days. You've got to set your aspect ratio for what you're shooting, for what you're recording. So for us right now, being on Zoom or being on a webinar or a live video chat, landscape's really cool. Landscape's awesome, and it's right here and it's right here. You've got headspace after that. So that's your framing, right? So
you're saying as well, just to make note, if you have a client watching an iPad, it does make a difference, because you're now going to be small if you're doing the opposite. So
absolutely,
if they're watching it from a phone, you either need to tell them, or know that, flip your camera around. Good point.
Here's one I prepared earlier. So, so let's say that your client, and a lot of clients might, if they've been using their mobile phone for quite a while, well, they're used to holding it up this way because that's the way you do telephone calls, right? So they may be on a video chat with you like this. Well, phones, every time you go into video chat, a lot of people out there will probably already know this, but when you go into video chat, it'll pre-select whatever position you're holding your phone in. So if you hold it like this, it's going to be in landscape. You hold it like this, it's going to be in portrait. There's an exception to this rule though, because if your client is holding the phone like this and you're holding it like that, you're going to end up with these big, ugly black bars either side of your frame, because that's your phone trying to compute, hang on, how do I compress a landscape image into a portrait image for the person watching on the other end? You're going to end up with big, ugly black bars.
And be much smaller.
And be much smaller. So that's, you've got to try and, again, meet people where they are. If somebody's like this, be like that. If somebody's like that, be like that in a video chat specifically. But when you're looking at different platforms, you've really got to know your platform and what aspect ratio you should be in. So that's your frame. That's your framing, whether it's landscape or whether it's portrait. Then you can do different things with your frame. For example, and I'm going to move my mic again. This is not the best mic for moving around the place. So your video, when you're in landscape, can be divided into thirds, okay? So this would be this all the way through, where's my camera? All the way through here. That's the first third of your video frame. This here is what's called the second third, and then double points for anybody who can guess what this one is. The third
frame? Is it the third frame? Yeah.
So it's the third. Oh, bring my microphone back. It's the third. And just say it a whole bunch of times fast. It sounds really weird. It's the third. It's the third. And so you can frame yourself. And this is a really hard thing to do right now while I'm set up for being in the middle frame. So I'm going to turn my cameras and take care of myself to the camera. That's sort of opening up to the camera there. And then I've just ducked down, because what happened when I put myself in the first third is that I got rid of my headspace, and we'll cover headspace in a second. I'll expand. So expand my head. So I am now in the first third of the frame. This is really valuable because what we've created here is a whole bunch of real estate in the video frame. And if you want to pre-record stuff and do things like PowerPoint presentations or Zoom chats like what Dan's doing, you can put stuff here when you do your editing later, like photos, videos, text, things like that you might be talking about. I can make a picture go bing up on my hand right here. So we've created valuable real estate by putting ourselves in the first third. Then the normal one is people putting
themselves. Just to point out, that could be educating someone as well. If we're trying to teach them how to use Zoom, to have just a piece of paper or a whiteboard or whatever.
Could be a whiteboard. Yep. Could be a TV screen. You could be flicking through with a clicker on a flat screen or something like that to really show people what's going on in your presentation. So all sorts of cool things you can do with that space there. So then middle frame is the second third and far right is the third third. I think if you're going to create space, typically you'll put yourself in the first third and use the real estate on that side, but you'll see people do it from the other side as well for whatever particular reasons. They've got something nicer in this side of the frame, maybe. You can do that. I feel like it's left hand, right hand, like whatever you feel comfortable with. I prefer to put myself over this side. So that's your framing. That's dividing it into the thirds, and it can look kind of fun if you watch some of your favorite YouTubers. If you've got people you've been watching online, or just people in general in video that you've been watching, you might find that they start doing some of that creative stuff by dividing the screen up into thirds and putting themselves into one of those. Then you've got headspace. Headspace is super important, and Dan, good job on your headspace today. I'm just watching you there.
You've got great, when we were setting up. Yeah.
Great headspace. So what a lot of people do is just a beginner mistake, really, is usually they have too much headspace at the top of their frame. Now, this is valuable space right here. When you're watching television and you've got a news reporter on TV, they will always have a really good framing and a really good headspace. This shot that we're doing right now with me is what's called a talking head or a head and shoulders shot, right? Typically, your hands aren't in the shot, which is great for people starting out because they generally don't know what to do with their hands. And Dan, we can cover that later if we have enough time. But headspace, generally, people are sort of right down here, and they end up leaving half to a third of the frame at the top of their head empty, all right? Which just looks weird and awkward. It's a much nicer thing to look at to really fill your frame up and be bigger in the frame. It's easier on the eye. And just leave yourself with a teeny tiny little bit of headspace right there, some breathing room. You don't want to cut your head off like that or just end up looking like you may have a bald patch on the top of your head or something like that, right? Just right down around about there. So that's what you would do in landscape. You do the same in portrait mode, okay? So if we flipped it all on its side, you just leave a little bit of a gap at the top right there, and that's what's known as your headspace. So if you notice you got too much of the frame available at the top of the screen, then reduce that. Just play around with shifting in your chair or where you're standing, coming a little closer to the camera, a little further away, and then you'll find the sweet spot there. And occasionally, if you're doing what I'm doing, occasionally looking down at my frame just to make sure it still looks good. All right, that's me being obsessive compulsive. So,
well, I've just completely been rejigging that whole time you've been talking my box under my laptop and camera, and I've just been trying to get it slightly more framed and better headspace. So, I hope people are noticing the difference here and with Aaron's tips. So
I sure
that's
do.
Great. Thank you for that. We've spoken about eye contact. The other one is now first of all, and it's probably a good time to jump in. Janine says, I did and looks good. Thank you, Janine. And before Rachel, when we're talking about compliments, said, since you're looking for compliments, Aaron, do you have a Facebook page or somewhere you can deliver your tips and knowledge? He's got a great resource, great website, great Facebook page. At the end, we'll put links in the show notes and also on the page, but also links to all of those for Aaron, so we'll get back to that. But one thing Rachel's asked here as well is, what should our background look like, and does it have an effect on how our impact on connection? So Aaron, if you want to talk about that.
Great question, Rachel. Yes, absolutely it does. Now, this is where we get to things like depth of field. And it doesn't matter whether you're shooting on an iPhone or a smartphone or an iPad or anything like that. If you back yourself up hard against a wall, it really has an impact on making your shot feel claustrophobic. And it also has a really horrible impact on creating a shadow behind you. You know how if you've already tried shooting videos, you'll find that as soon as you've got your back hard up against the wall, you have this horrible shadow where, like, either a ceiling light, or if you've got a little bit more of a professional light in front of you shining on you, you just have this head and shoulder silhouette shadow right next to you, and it looks absolutely awful, and you can't figure out how to get rid of it. Well, you just move forward off the wall. This creates two good things. It creates a more open, light, and breathable looking shot, if you will. And it makes it look a lot more relaxed and nice. And it also avoids the shadow behind you. So right now, if you look at my shot, we've got a really one-dimensional shot here. Okay, there's no corners in my shot right now. It's just me with a wall behind me. So it's okay to do that. It's not too bad. People can do that. You can also green screen different sorts of things behind you. But what people don't probably realize is I've got pretty long arms, by the way. That is nowhere near where my wall is. It's miles away from where I am. Okay. And it's another half an arm's length from me to the wall right there. So you don't realize how much space you can get behind you and really create that nice, light, airy sort of feel. So always try and bring yourself forward off the wall. Tip number one for background. Tip number two is try and create what Dan's done here. He's done a really good job of it. Try and create a little bit of breathability and a more interesting shot by giving yourself textures and angles. And you'll see a lot of people in videos these days, people who are putting out a lot of video content, they'll have an angle, or they'll be facing towards a corner. And it creates a nice dimension behind you rather than just a flat surface. If you don't have a lot of space between you and the wall and you're hard up against a wall, try and find a corner, because that can really help your shot have a little bit of character and change the dimension of your shot. Also, Dan's got a bit of a window in there. You could put a pot plant or a bookshelf. You could have a lamp shining up to backlight yourself a little bit. It gives you an extra little bit of depth there as well, and separates you, like your frame, from the backdrop. So that's another tip.
I would never have thought to have shot on this angle until talking with you. I wouldn't have thought to have had the window. I wouldn't have thought to be to face the corner behind me. But now I've got it set up. I can see that, the way it gives that a bit of depth, a bit of changes. It's slightly more interesting than just a blank wall. But it also, I can see the benefits now.
Just easier on the eye, nicer to look at. So...
Yep, terrific.
This thing is we're handing out compliments. Sorry.
That's right. So
the angle, I wasn't talking about Dan, but you're doing good too, Dan.
I presume you were talking about the angle, So lighting. Now, this is something I actually didn't get my light set up today, but after talking to Aaron, I went and got a small light I'm experimenting with. And so how does, I'm using the just natural office lighting here. So how does lighting affect things? What do you recommend? Because a lot of people aren't going to go out and buy lighting necessarily, but we can use natural light and lighting. What are the basic tips to help us with that?
Cool. So as far as lighting goes, there's a myriad of things you can do. And these days, lighting, if you want to invest even the smallest amount in lighting, you can get really good, really cheap stuff off things like Amazon and eBay these days. So the best light I would say that you can get super cheap is what people now call a ring light or an angel light. Or a halo light, angel light. I don't know why I said that. Halo light, a ring light or a halo light, which there might be a brand out there called Angel Light. I do not endorse. This is not a paid endorsement. So the cool thing about halo lights or ring lights is they're round. You may have seen them out and about or in shops. And the specific function that they have, why they're round, is because it avoids you having a slight shadow over one side of your face. It gives you a nice, even, well-lit face, head and shoulders, body in your shot. So shadow is the big thing. It avoids a lot of shadow. I've got a mini ring light in front of me at the moment, and it's probably a bit bigger than this camera lens cover. So you don't need them to be huge to have a good effect. If you're filming on a phone or an iPad, there is little clip-on lights that you can get these days, like little Lumo lights and things like that. The biggest thing that I would say, because everywhere you're going to be has got different levels of room light or natural light. Okay. The best and cheapest light you can get these days is facing a window. I'm facing a window right now, so I've got some more even light coming through, as well as the mini ring light that's shining towards me. So natural light, face yourself towards a window, set your desk up there or your tripod or your frame up there, and just use the natural light. The best forms of light are first thing in the morning or later in the afternoon, dusk and dawn, because you don't have the harsh light that's going to give you shadows. So, excuse me, that's the best thing I can recommend there. Otherwise, little clip-on lights that you can get for iPads, iPhones, things like that. A lot of tripods, like you can get Halo ring light tripods now that have lights built in with a mount, so that you can mount your tripod, mount your iPad or your camera or your phone, and then have your light all connected all at once. And they've even got a little spot where you can clip a microphone and things like that. So if you want to truly get yourself set up, have a little shop around. I've actually got a link, actually, Dan, that I think we mentioned we were going to hand out to people, and it's got a whole bunch of the equipment that I use and recommend to my students, actually. And I'm happy to provide that link to you guys absolutely free. Do you want to put that at the end, or do you want to mention that now, Dan?
Yeah, I will. I'm going to put the link in the show notes, and and there'll be we can also pop the PDF in. So but if you want to briefly mention, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So it's my website, aaronmac.co, not .com, it's .co. So aaronmac.co/equipment. And you'll have a whole bunch of stuff there that you can click, and it's actually got links to the best brands and the places that I found them at for the best prices. You can get them all through places like Amazon and things like that. I will say that some, because I have a lot of students from overseas in the US, because I have an online business all around the world. So some of them will be charged in US prices, and some of them might not be available in Australia. But wherever you click, it'll also say, click here to see these in your country or closer location or something like that. But
it's a great resource for clients for accessibility. You put together a really good list there.
Yes. So there's a special section there, like Dan just said, for accessible accessories. I think I actually called it accessible accessories. So things like that can attach onto the arm of a wheelchair and have a frame to hold an iPad at eye height in front of a client. Amazing. There's same thing for phones, for lighting, all that sort of stuff. So some really cool accessible accessories, things that are easy to put on, clip off, tighten up. So definitely check that section out as well.
Yeah, fantastic. No, that's great. We're getting close to time. I've still got a few questions, so I'm going to run through a few things very quickly. I was going to quickly show you my light. I think I'm seeing how well you're presenting on camera. I thought I'll go out, and I asked Santa to get me a nice big light. And knowing that you've just got such a simple little light, I probably way overcompensated, which I'm not even using at the moment, but I'll test that out in the next couple of days. But it doesn't need to be overly complex. It can be simple, just experimenting too.
Make sure there's a dimmer. I think that's what I forgot to say. Make sure there's a dimmer. That's one of the most important things with your lights, because lighting changes in every room or every area that you're in.
And we're talking too, when you're connecting with clients, it's a bit weird when you're kind of squinting in the bright light.
You can give yourself little hot spots on your face if you've got it too bright.
Yeah, good point. A couple of other quick little things here is you mentioned props. Props can be a fun, easy, simple way to connect and also make people feel more comfortable when on camera. So I like that little tip you've used in the past as well. Some people, props, and people might say, oh, it could be childish for some people, but I think it really depends on the prop, depends on why you're using it. And and whether you're having fun. And props can simply be bits of paper, books, whiteboards.
I mean, we use this just before. That's a prop. Have stuff that support what you're talking about. But if you want to have a lot of fun with it, get some costumes and wigs and funny stuff as well, because everybody wants to have a good time and have a laugh.
Yeah. I hesitated from getting dressed up today. I nearly did, but no, I think props are a great idea. Also, we're talking about backgrounds, and if you're using Zoom, a funny little tip is you can do virtual backgrounds, and if you are close to a back wall, another simple tip is simply be transported to a tropical oasis, which quite balmy here at the moment. So, aloha.
Break out the ukulele.
So, it's another great little tip. But something I wanted you mentioned to me was this mystical, magical, wondrous thing called Zoom Touch Up. Do you want to just
This is our favorite little add-on to Zoom right here.
Yes.
What this is, Zoom Touch Up is essentially turning back the wheels of time through one simple button on Zoom. So I've actually got it on at the moment. So my complexion is not this flawless, ladies and gentlemen. You've got to go into the settings. Now, where did we say it was? I think it was
it's under video settings.
Video settings in Zoom.
Click on the camera, video settings, and then it's in video again. And there's just a little button, touch up my appearance.
Click that little button and it'll be a pore minimizer, line reducer. You'll look $1,000,000, give you a nice, maybe even a golden tan. Who knows? Play around with it and see what happens. And if you are doing the tropical island paradise backdrop, then you will need that tan. So
that's it. That's fantastic. So we've talked about accessibility, which I think is in Aaron's website. So if you click on the link, I'll provide that. The link will have access to, and you can just find out about that list of accessible accessories that Aaron's put together. We're talking about props. Pretty much to finish up, we could talk for a whole day on more than days on this. And you actually run a course just on this one thing around being confident and connecting with people on camera, and also on your Facebook, you deliver heaps of tips and great strategies. But what if you could only leave us with one piece of advice? What would be that one piece?
Repetition. Just get out there, and people will meet you at where you're at. Before we spoke about meeting people where they're at, but people will meet you at where you're at. So obviously you're not going to be for everybody. Everybody's not for you. There's certain people who, if you've ever looked at training up for something or getting coaching on something, well, you wouldn't get coaching on something from somebody who is below your level already, right? So there's people right now who they don't need my training. They're way more advanced in getting on camera than what I'm teaching to people, or even where I'm at. There's more professional presenters out there, hosts out there that are hosting huge international TV shows from studios in LA, and getting on stage in Vegas and stuff like that. So I am not the highest level of TV host that I could be. There are people who are higher. Just the same as whatever you're going to be doing on camera, and whoever you're going to be doing it for, they'll meet you where you're at. So put yourself out there. The right people will find you, and the wrong people, who are the ones who subconsciously we may, or even consciously, we may be intimidated by thinking, oh, what if people don't like me? What if they reject me? What if they say I'm not good enough? What if I stumble? What if I fall? What if something bad happens? Well, it's super simple, and I wish I had another prop right here. But just like when somebody's watching the television, if they don't like what they're watching, they change the channel. And in the click generation right now, if somebody doesn't like what they're watching, or you don't resonate with them, that's fine. They were never going to become a customer anyway. And if it's a client, then maybe they'll say, you know what? Let's do a different activity. Let's not do the video thing anymore. That's cool. It's not for everybody, but give it a go. Do a lot of repetition, And the people who are not for you, they'll keep on swiping. They'll change the channel. Don't feel intimidated that somebody is going to give you negative feedback, and don't let that shut you down and give you that paralysis, because you may be missing out on something that could truly be great and that you will really grow to love and enjoy.
That's amazing. Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, I love that. Just that repetition, keep practicing. We get better, we get more comfortable, and same goes with our clients. You just, can encourage them, take those small steps, even if it is have their camera off, like you said at the start, while yours is on, get them built up, because really it's that repetition is how we're going to get all more comfortable, and we're going to all get better at connecting with each other through the camera lens. So no,
and watch that footage back.
Oh, and watching the footage back, it's incredibly powerful on how that works. And it's as uncomfortable as it is. I think it teaches us how to be better on camera, and also, teaching me how to just engage and present myself better too. It's a great skill. So I love that. Got a couple of comments here. I won't mention that. One person says, "Oh wow, as an oldie, I love the sound of touch up as I'm all wrinkles online. I can't wait to test it out, like as soon as we finish." Absolutely. Another one, great presentation, Aaron. I'll play around with my camera tonight. Thanks heaps. Another one, the presentation, fantastic for Toastmasters as well. Thank you guys. So we're getting lots of really good feedback as well from people. So thank you so much. Now we do have a little bit of time for questions. If anyone's got any questions, they can pop it in there, and we can try and get to it before we wrap it up. While people are making comments, I just wanted to thank you again, Aaron, for all the support you've given me and helping me get better at this. Also with your and your time today and helping us all. Just wanted to give a couple of quick notes to say that, I'll put your show notes into the your link, but also to your website, because you do some great stuff. Your course, Confidence on Camera, helps a huge amount of people. And I've seen the transformation you've taken people from where they started. Almost got goosebumps talking about it, watching them get on camera the first time to when they leave at the end. It's really powerful and really impressive. So great work with what you're doing and how you're helping people. And thank you for helping us today. Now I do have one question here. Where exactly can I find the links and PDF from this webinar? I cannot find the notes that you mentioned. Oh, and last night. Okay, no worries, Janine. I'm going to, if you go into the webinar platform and you look at the replays, there may have been a delay in getting some of those loaded up. There's normally about an hour or two. Last night was a little bit longer, sorry. But if you, within the next couple of hours, there'll be those show notes in that. So you go to replay, and under the video, they'll now be in the comments section. I realize that's probably an easier way to talk to people. So go to the summit page, go to replays, and underneath the video, scroll down, you'll see a comments section. People can make comments, and I will load it into there. There's also another little file for media, so that if we've got PDFs or anything, you can check there. But what I'm also planning on doing is putting together one email at the very end of this summit, just to make sure everyone's got all the details, and in that will be the links to everything. So hopefully that helps answer that question. I'll just quickly read through, Aaron. Last couple of notes here, people are making comments. Is there tutorials for using Zoom? Aaron, you can probably answer this, but yes, there is lots on YouTube. Do you have any better answer for that?
Yeah, tons on YouTube. I'm not sure who that person was specifically, because I just missed the name there. But if you're talking about my tutorial specifically, we do stuff and we train stuff in Zoom. But yeah, otherwise, YouTube. Jump on YouTube. There is a plethora of information on YouTube about using Zoom. And just quickly as well, cutting edge news right here, straight from the newsroom floor, that Mark Zuckerberg has announced, and they're calling it the Zoom killer. Mark Zuckerberg has announced a brand new Facebook private group chat streaming room style setup that he is releasing and launching on Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's going to be, keep an eye out for that. That's going to be big, and people are also going to be able to charge a fee for people to attend and watch. So if you're looking at doing this and maybe sort of growing a little business or something like that, it's something that could be really handy for use for yourself and your business. Through Facebook,
Fantastic.
they always go above and beyond, and they always take the best ideas from everywhere and put them all together and release them. So it's
and
definitely
our clients
something,
are all on Facebook. That could be really powerful for connecting with our clients.
something to watch. Yeah.
That's great, and great tip. I'm just going to read through a couple of more comments here. It was a very positive session. I feel I've learned a lot. That's great to hear. Thanks, Daniel and Aaron. This has been a great presentation, given all the Zooming that's happening these days. Absolutely. Thank you very much. You've definitely taken away some great info. So people are obviously finding this very helpful and informative. Please do jump on your Facebook page. I think it's a great place to connect with Aaron, and a great place he puts a lot of tips out and a lot of information. So follow Aaron on Facebook, and connect with us there. So did you have anything else you wanted to add, Aaron?
No, I just say don't underestimate the power of the message that you have to deliver to people. You may sort of think, oh, but who am I? Who am I to get on camera? Who am I to make videos? Who am I to speak? Who am I as an expert? Don't underestimate the message that you have and the value of the message that you have to deliver to people. You've got a voice, and people are out there and they want to hear your voice. They want to hear your expertise. They want to hear you talk. So don't be the person who gets in their way. Who are you to stand in their way? Get out there, use your voice, get on camera, and deliver your message to people, because what you have to say is valuable. That's the biggest tip I could probably give you and leave you with right now.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thanks so much, Aaron. That's really great advice. And right now, recreation therapy has never been more important. People around the world are so isolated, and we need to be there. We need to be the leaders. We need to be supporting our clients more than ever. So don't let ourselves get in our own way. This is great advice. So thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure we're going to be doing lots more of these type of sessions together in the future. So
looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Aaron.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks very much, Dan. I really appreciate the time, and thanks for having me on.
No worries. Pleasure. See you later, everybody.